Hello there. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about a poem called At the Bus Station by Julius Chingono. To start with, I want to really ask you a question. Have you ever been shoved onto a bus in rush hour or squeezed into a train on your way home from school or work? So if you have, this poem really is for you. As well as being an IGCSE literature poem, it's also a wonderful text that explores how people can be a bit heartless and selfish at times. So first of all, let's hear the poem, and then I'll get into it. At the bus station. When you arrive at the bus station, pull down your tie or remove the tie to prevent strangulation. During the fight to board the bus, unfasten all buttons of the shirt and jacket to avoid losing the buttons. During the battle to gain entry to the bus, tighten both shoelaces, for when you are hauled into the bus, you hang in the air, and the shoes may come off. Tighten your belt to avoid being undressed during the scrambling at the door. Remove your spectacles and hold tight to someone until you are in the bus. During the climb, pay no attention to human sounds. Also, bear in mind, words lose meaning until you are inside the bus. So to sum up, this appears to be a set of instructions on how to survive the battle, as he calls it, to board this bus on a crowded, crowded morning, maybe on the way to work. And of course, with poetry, the bus isn't just a bus. It's a symbol for something much wider, which we'll come to a bit later. So to start with, the poem's title doesn't really give any clues about where this bus is, or indeed where it's going, which makes the situation quite generic or general and easy to relate to. When the speaker tells you to loosen your tie to stop being strangled, it sounds like they are addressing us. Presumably, we're a male going to work, given that we are wearing a tie. The speaker then uses an imperative verb when saying pull down your tie, which creates a sense of urgency, and then goes further to suggest just take the whole tie off completely. The idea that you may be strangled seems a little hyperbolic and maybe comic. There's some rhyming here also with station and strangulation, but elsewhere it's pretty loose, maybe in the way that the physical jostling gets worse and worse. The poem, too, loses any sense of structure and ends up being completely free verse. Now, this first 5-line sentence is followed up here with another 5-line sentence. Here, Chingono increases the tension by describing the situation as a fight. Then the plosive alliteration of board the bus adds to the kind of punchy, forceful nature of this experience. In fact, in the whole poem, the speaker uses the B sound 10 times. As we move on, another imperative verb tells us to unfasten all buttons, which again seems a bit over the top. By now, the speaker is warming to the task and is expanding their advice. So the next sentence stretches over 15 quite scattered lines. The word fight has now been replaced by battle, which introduces a semantic field of words connected with war. Anaphora is a repeated phrase at the start of some clauses, and here we see it in the lines during the. And it does give some shape to the poem, but the word during also suggests this isn't going to be a few quick steps to get on board. It's going to take a while. Now we are told to tighten both shoelaces as we are hauled on board. And the verb hauled is interesting here. It's worth pausing to explain that because hauled has quite violent connotations and also makes us passive. We are being hauled while someone else is actively pushing us on. And the instructions continue to use this kinesthetic energy or imagery as we're told we may hang in the air and may even end up being undressed. This extended battle is now getting more extreme and maybe slightly cartoonish. So I've never heard of anyone ending up naked because they tried to get on a bus. In the final part of this sentence, we're told to hang on tight to someone. Now, holding on tight would usually be a form of affection, but the fact it could be someone or anyone really makes it more random and much more about survival. In the final sentence, back to 5 lines again now, there's a notable tonal shift. The mood of the poem kind of changes. Gone are these instructions, and instead the speaker becomes much more philosophical. We're told to ignore any human sounds and to remember words lose meaning until you're on board. Here, the speaker is explaining how it's basically one person for himself or herself in this quest for survival. Ignore any pleas or protestations, just make sure you get on the bus. This last part, then, is more of a clue about the poet's real message. Do we really lose any sense of caring or humanity when boarding a bus? Or are we all capable of being selfish in order to succeed? That certainly seems to be the message here, as we're all caught up in a rat race of one kind or another, where just being able to survive is the main goal. Now, when talking about poetry, also remember to talk about the form or the structure of the poem. And here it plays a really big part in delivering the meaning. The lines have a lot of enjambment, or the run on lines. They don't finish with a full stop at the end. And this enjambment makes our eyes kind of sway from one side to the next to keep up. At the end of one line, you're going straight into the next. Very similar to maybe the swaying and the change of direction needed to get on this bus. It's not linear. We're not just going in a straight line here. And this generally kind of slightly chaotic form, no rhyme scheme really, no real rhythm, completely reflects the random nature of this situation. So overall, the poems are chaotic and frenzied, got a real kind of chaotic feel to it. But it's discovered by a pretty calm speaker, maybe because he or she gets on this bus every day. It's a normal event for them. The lack of humanity really is the biggest thing here. Note how we're told to loosen or tighten clothing. Simply talking to someone here clearly isn't going to work. Words don't have any great effect, which is somewhat ironic given it's a poem. And so we have to give in to this incivility and the selfish nature of others, which the poet suggests isn't something that's exclusive to this bus. Okay, there we are. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found that useful. If you did, please feel free to like and even subscribe. Thank you very much.